let's say, hold on a second. Notice went out. Check to make sure that we are streaming live. Yes, we are live. Hold on a second. Okay. This thing seems to be working. Okay, so we'll get a song. And we will. Hold on a second. All right. That. Okay, we'll do Ove Vaishnava Thakur again. After this, we have an announcement after, at least during the class, or maybe after the class, or after we chant. Okay. Ove Vaishnava Thakur, say Karuna Gauri, Vaishnava Thakur, say Para Jaya Shodaya Maya Tomara Charana Dia Para Jaya Shodaya Maya Tomara Charana Jaya Betali Shankari Jaya Gurudeya Dasai Jaya Betali Shankari Jaya Gurudeya Dasai Jaya Satsanga Deo Amare Shichi Sangira Say Jaya Satsanga Deo Amare Shichi Sangira Ekaki Amara Vaimolo Dhamma Sankirtane Ekaki Amara Vaimolo Krishna Namadane. Tumi Kripa Gauri Shatra Vinudiya Deho Krishna Namadane. Krishna said Tumara Kati Krishna say Tumara Krishna Tite Para Tumara Kati Amito Kangala Krishna Krishna Bole Dayatava Amito Kangala Krishna Krishna Bole Dayatava Vaishnavata Yarsaga Eda say Karuna Gauri. Oh hey Vaishnavata Yarsaga Eda say Karuna Gauri. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Paramedikacharya, also Tala Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Savaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasili Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuranam Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Madhumaya Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharni, Devashesha Shunyavadi, Paschachate Shatardi. Let me read the translation. O Venerable Vaishnava, ocean of mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me to control my 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults. Bestow upon me the 6 qualities and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours, you have the power to give him to me. I'm simply running behind you shouting, Krishna, Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. So, one announcement before we begin tonight's reading of the Krishna book. Tomorrow is a very special day on the Vaishnava, or in the Vaishnava calendar, at least here in North Carolina. It's the commemoration of the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. So at this particular time, I'll be speaking during the Sunday Feast program, and we are going to speak about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also have a Pushpanjali and Arti for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that's tomorrow. And for those of you who know, it's a fast, a half day in honor of this great personality, the spiritual masters of Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and who was the disciple of Gorkashoras Babaji Maharaj, who was the disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was the disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, all the way down through to the disciplic succession to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay? So, now we will continue with our Krishna book reading. Om Ganata Mirandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yaina Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So we're going to talk more about Krishna killing demons today. Okay. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. All right, give me 1 second to set up the screen. Here. All right. Here we go. So, we're up to chapter 78. There's only 90 chapters in the Krishna book. So we're going to finish rather soon, except for the chapter on the prayers to the prayers of the personified Vedas. That's going to take a little longer because that's the longest chapter in the 10th canto. It's very philosophical, so it'll take time to go through that chapter. But the other chapters are rather quick and smaller. So this chapter is called The Killing of Danta Vakra. Means lightning teeth. Vidarata and Romaharsana. That's interesting. Romaharsana. Hair. All right. After the demise of Shishupal, Shava, and Pondaraka, a foolish demoniac king of the name Danta Vakra, teeth, wanted to kill Krishna to avenge the death of his friend Shalva. He became so agitated that he appeared on the battlefield without the proper arms and ammunition, without even a chariot. His only weapon was his great anger, which was red hot. He carried only a club in his hand, but he was so powerful that when he moved, everyone felt the earth tremble. When Lord Krishna saw him approaching in a very heroic mood, he immediately got down from his chariot, for it was the rule of military etiquette that fighting should take place only between equals. Knowing that Dantavakra was alone and armed with only a club, Lord Krishna responded similarly and prepared himself by taking a club in his hand. When Krishna appeared before him, Dantavakra's heroic march was immediately stopped, just as the great, furious waves of the ocean were stopped by the beach. At that time, Dantavakra, who was the king of Karusha, stood firmly with his club and spoke to Lord Krishna as follows. It is a great pleasure and fortunate opportunity, Krishna, that we are seeing each other face to face. My dear Krishna, after all, you are my maternal cousin, and I should not kill you in this way. Ooh. But unfortunately, you have committed a great mistake by killing my friend, Shalva. Moreover, you are not satisfied by killing my friend. I know that you want to kill me also. Because of your determination, I must kill you by tearing you to pieces with my club. Krishna, although you are my relative, you are foolish. You are our greatest enemy. So I must kill you today, just as a person removes a boil on his body by a surgical operation. I'm always very much obliged to my friends, and I therefore consider myself indebted to my dear friend Shalva. I can liquidate my indebtedness to him only by killing you. As the caretaker of an elephant tries to control the animal by striking it with his trident, Dantavakra tried to control Krishna simply by speaking strong words. After finishing his vituperation, He struck Krishna on the head with his club and made a roaring sound like a lion. But Krishna, although struck strongly by the club of Dantavakra, did not move even an inch, nor did he feel any pain. Taking his Kaumodaki club and moving very skillfully, Krishna struck Dantavakra's chest so fiercely that Dantavakra's heart split in twain. As a result, Dantavakra began to vomit blood, his hair scattered, and he fell to the ground, spreading his hands and legs. Within only a few minutes, all that remained of Dantavakra was a dead body on the ground. After the death of Dantavakra, just as at the time of Shishupala's death, in the presence of all the persons standing there, a small particle of spiritual effulgence came out of the demon's body and very wonderfully merged into the body of Lord Krishna. Dantavakra had a brother named Vidaratha, who was overwhelmed with grief at Dantavakra's death. Out of grief and anger, Vidaratha was breathing very heavily, and just to avenge the death of his brother, he appeared before Lord Krishna with a sword and a shield in his hands. He wanted to kill Krishna immediately. When Lord Krishna understood that Vidaratha was looking for the opportunity to strike him with a sword, he employed his Sudarshan chakra, his razor-sharp disc, and without delay cut off Vidaratha's head with its helmet and earrings. In this way, after killing Shalvan, destroying his wonderful airplane, and then killing Dantavakra and Vidaratha, Lord Krishna at last entered his city Dwarka. It would not have been possible for anyone but Krishna to kill these great heroes, and therefore all the demigods from heaven and the human beings on the surface of the globe were glorifying him. Great sages and ascetics, the denizens of the Siddha and Gandharva planets, the denizens known as Vidyadharas, Vasuki, and the Mahanagas, that means big snakes. The beautiful angels, the inhabitants of Pitriloka, the Yakshas, the Kinnaras, and the Charanas, all showered flowers upon him and sang songs of his victory in great jubilation. Decorating the entire city very festively, the citizens of Dwarka held a great celebration, and when Lord Krishna passed through the city, all the members of the Vrishni dynasty and the heroes of the Yadu dynasty followed him with great respect. These are some of the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, the master of all mystic power, and the lord of all cosmic manifestations. Those who are fools, who are like animals, sometimes think that Krishna is defeated, if actually he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one can defeat him. He always remains victorious over everyone. He alone is God, and all others are his subservient order carriers. Ekala Ishra Krishna, Arasabhya Vrita. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma heard that an arrangement was being made for a fight between the two rival parties in the Kuru dynasty, one headed by Duryodhana and the other by the Pandavas. He did not like the idea, and he tried to act as mediator to stop the fighting. Finding it impossible, not wishing to take an active part on behalf of either party, he left Dwarka on the plea of visiting various holy places of pilgrimage. He first of all visited the place of pilgrimage known as Prabhasa Kshetra. He took his bath there, and he pacified the local brahmanas and offered oblations to the demigods Pitas, great sages and people in general, in accordance with Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. That is the Vedic method of visiting the holy places. After this, accompanied by respectable brahmanas, he decided to visit different places on the bank of the river Saraswati. He gradually visited such places as Pritudaka, Bindusara, Tritakupa, Sudarshana Tirtha, Vishala Tirtha, Brahma Tirtha, and Chakra Tirtha. Besides these, he also visited all the holy places on the bank of the Saraswati River running toward the east. After this, he visited all the principal holy places on the bank of the Yamuna and on the bank of the Ganges. Thus he gradually came to the holy place known as Naimisharanya, which is where the Bhagavatam was being recited. Naimisharanya is still existing in India, and in ancient times it was especially used for the meetings of great sages and saintly persons with the aim of understanding spiritual life and self-realization. When Lord Balaram visited that place, there was the great sacrifice being performed by a great assembly of transcendentalists. Such meetings were planned to last thousands of years. Wow. When Lord Balaram arrived, all the participants in the meeting, great sages, ascetics, brahmanas, and learned scholars, immediately arose from their seats and welcomed him with great honor and respect. Some offered him respects by standing up and paying obeisances, and those who were elderly, great sages and brahmanas offered him blessings after standing up. After this formality, Lord Balaram was offered a suitable seat, and everyone present worshipped him. Everyone in the assembly stood up in the presence of Balaram because they knew him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Education or learning means to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Lord Balaram appeared on the earth as the Kshatriya, all the Brahmanas and sages stood up because they knew who Lord Balaram was. Unfortunately, after being worshipped and seated in his place, Lord Balaram saw Romaharsana, the disciple of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of Godhead, still sitting on the Vyasasana. He had neither gotten up from his seat nor offered him the respects. Because he was seated on the Vyasasana, he foolishly thought himself greater than the Lord. Therefore, he did not get down from his seat or bow down before the Lord. Lord Balaram then considered the history of Romaharsana. He was born in a Suta family, or mixed family, born of a Brahmin woman and a Kshatriya man. Therefore, although Romaharsana considered Balarama Kshatriya, he should not have remained sitting on a higher seat. According to his position by birth, he should not even have accepted the higher sitting position because many learned Brahmanas and sages were present. Lord Balaram also observed that Romaharsana not only refused to come down from his exalted seat, but he did not even stand up and offer his respects when Balaramaji entered the assembly. Lord Balaram did not like the audacity of Romaharsana, and becoming very angry at him, declared from his seat, "This man Romaharsana is so impudent that he has accepted a higher seat than that of all the respectable Brahmanas present here, although he was born in a degraded Pratilom family." Because Pratilom, just to inform you what Pratilom means, it means when the woman is of a higher quality than the man. When the man is of a higher quality than the woman, then that's Anulom. So Pratilom is generally frowned upon. When a person is seated on the Vyasasana, he does not generally have to stand to receive a particular person entering the assembly. But in this case, the situation was different because Lord Baladev is not an ordinary human being. Therefore, although Romaharsana Suta was voted to the Vyasasana by all the Brahmanas, he should have followed the behavior of other learned sages and Brahmanas present, and should have known that Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Respects are always due him, even though such respects can be avoided in the case of an ordinary man. The appearance of Krishna and Balarama is especially meant for re-establishment of religious principles. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the highest religious principle is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms that the topmost perfection of religion is to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. When Lord Balaram saw that Romaharsana Suta did not understand the highest principle of religion in spite of his having studied all the Vedas, he certainly could not support his position. Romaharsana Suta had been given a chance to become a perfect Brahmana, but because of his ill behavior in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his low birth was immediately remembered. Romaharsana Suta had been given the position of a Brahmin, but he had not been born in the family of a Brahmin. He had been born in a Pratiloma family. According to the Vedic concept, there are two kinds of mixed family heritage. One is called Anuloma and Pratiloma. I described this previously. When a male is united with a female of a lower caste, the offspring is called Anuloma, but when the male unites with a woman of a higher caste, the offspring is called Pratiloma. Romaharsana Suta belonged to a Pratiloma family because his father was a Kshatriya and his mother a Brahmana. Because Romaharsana's transcendental realization was not perfect, Lord Balaram remembered his Pratiloma heritage. The idea is that any man may be given the chance to become a Brahmana, but if he improperly uses the position of a Brahmana without actual realization, then his elevation to the Brahminical position is not valid. After seeing the deficiency of realization in Romaharsana Suta, Lord Balaram decided to chastise them for being puffed up. Lord Balaram therefore said, this man is liable to be awarded the death punishment because although he has the good qualification of being a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, and although he has studied all the Vedic literature from this exalted personality, he was not submissive in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person who is actually a Brahmin and is very learned must automatically become very gentle also. But although Romaharsana Suta was very learned and had been given the chance to become a Brahmin, he had not become gentle. From this we can understand that one who is puffed up by material acquisitions cannot acquire the gentle behavior befitting a Brahmin. The learning of such a person is as good as a valuable jewel decorating the hood of a serpent. Despite the valuable jewel on the hood, a serpent is still a serpent, and is as fearful as an ordinary serpent. If a person does not become meek and humble, all his studies of the Vedas and Puranas and his vast knowledge of the Shastras are simply outward dress like the costume of a theatrical artist dancing on the stage. Lord Balaram considered, I have appeared in order to chastise false persons who are internally impure but externally pose themselves as very learned and religious. By killing of such persons is proper to check them from further sinful activity. Lord Balaram had avoided taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, yet because of his position as an incarnation, the re-establishment of religious principles was his prime duty. Considering these points, he killed Romaharsana Suta simply by striking him with a kusha straw, which is nothing but a blade of grass. Pretty amazing. Killing someone, imagine you have to go take someone to court. Where's the murder weapon? Here it is, Your Honor. A blade of grass. You'd be laughed out of court. But Lord Ballarama, God could do anything with anything he wants. If someone questions how Lord Balaram could kill Romaharsana Suta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass, the answer is given in Srimad Bhagavatam by the use of the word Prabhu, Master. The Lord's position is always transcendental, and because he is omnipotent, he can act as he likes without being obliged to follow the material laws and principles. In other words, the laws of physics or mathematics are really not controlling factors when it comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the one who wrote the law. He could break the law. Just for example, a policeman can actually speed if he's on duty and not get a ticket. He can go like twice the speed limit. But if I do it, and I have done it, I get tickets. And thus it was possible for him to kill Romaharsana Suta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass. After the death of Romaharsana Suta, everyone present became much aggrieved and cried out, Alas! Alas! Although the Brahmanas and sages present knew Lord Balaram to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they did not hesitate to protest the Lord's action. They humbly submitted, Our dear Lord, we think that your action is not in line with the religious principles. Dear Lord Yadunandana, we may inform you that we Brahmanas posted Romaharsana Suta on that exalted position for the duration of this great sacrifice. He was seated on the Vyasasan by our election, and when one is seated on the Vyasasan, it is improper for him to stand up to receive a person. Moreover, we awarded Romaharsana Suta an undisturbed duration of life. Under the circumstances, since your lordship has killed him without knowing all these facts, we think that your action is equal to killing a Brahmana. Oh, they're accusing Lord Balaram of killing Brahmana. Dear Lord, deliverer of all the fallen souls, we know for certain that you are the knower of all Vedic principles. You are the master of all mystic powers, therefore the Vedic injunctions cannot ordinarily be applied to you. But we respectfully advise you to show your causeless mercy upon others by kindly atoning for this killing of Romaharsana Suta. In other words, setting a good example. We do not, however, suggest what kind of act you should perform to atone for killing him. We simply suggest that you adopt some method of atonement so that others may follow your action. What is done by a great personality is followed by the ordinary man. Krishna also mentions this in the Gita. Yad yada charity shreshta stuta evetaro janaha. What a great personality does all the world follows. The Lord replied, "Yes, I must atone for this action, which may have been proper for me, but is improper for others. Therefore, I think it is my duty to execute a suitable act of atonement enjoined in the authorized scriptures. Simultaneously, I can also give this Romaharsana Suta life again with a span of long duration, sufficient strength, and full power of the senses. Not only this, but if you desire, I should be glad to award him anything else you may ask. I shall be very glad to grant all these boons to fulfill your desires." This statement by Lord Balaram definitely confirms that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is free to act in any way. Although his killing of Romaharsana Suta may be considered improper, he could immediately counteract it with greater profit to all. Therefore, one should not imitate the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord. All the great learned sages present realized that although they considered the action of Lord Balaram improper, the Lord was immediately able to compensate with greater profits. Not wanting to detract from the mission of the Lord in killing Romaharsana Suta, all of them prayed, "Our dear Lord, the uncommon use of your Kusha weapon to kill Romaharsana Suta may remain as it is. Because you desired to kill him, he should not be brought back to life again. At the same time, your Lordship may remember that we sages and brahmanas voluntarily gave him long life. Therefore, such a benediction should not be nullified." Thus, the request of all the learned brahmanas in the assembly was ambiguous because they wanted to keep intact their benediction that Romaharsana Suta would continue to live until the end of the great sacrifice, but at the same time, they did not want to nullify Balaram's killing him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead therefore solved the problem in a manner befitting his exalted position. He said, "Because the Son is produced from the body of the Father, the Vedas enjoin that the Son is the Father's representative. Therefore, I say that Ugra Shrava Suta, the son of Romaharsana Suta, should therefore take his father's position and continue the discourses on the Puranas. And because you wanted Romaharsana to have a long duration of life, this benediction will be transferred to his son. This son, Ugrashrava, will therefore have all the facilities you offered, a long duration of life and a good and healthy body, with no disturbances and full strength of all the senses." So, of course, that's the Suta Goswami, who's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam as addressing the sages in Naimisharanya for the 1,000-year sacrifice. And he is the one who is able to repeat what Shukadev Goswami said to Parikshit Maharaj. And he was able to repeat that at the behest or request of Shaunaka Rishi, who was asking the questions of Suta Goswami. Anyway, that's the Bhagavatam. Lord Balaram then implored all the sages and brahmanas that aside from the benediction offered to the son of Romaharsana, they should ask from him any other benediction, and he would be prepared to fulfill it immediately. The Lord thus placed himself in the position of an ordinary Kshatriya and informed the sages that he did not know in what way he could atone for his killing of Romaharsana, but whatever they would suggest, he would be glad to accept it. The Brahmanas could understand the purpose of the Lord, and they suggested that he atone in a manner beneficial to them. They said, "Our dear Lord, there is a very powerful demon of the name Balvala. He is the son of Balvala, and he visits the sacred place of sacrifice every fortnight on the full moon and moonless days and creates a great disturbance to the discharge of our duties in the sacrifice. O descendant of Dashar, our family, we all request you to kill this demon. We think that if you kindly kill him, that will be your atonement on our behalf." The demon occasionally comes here and profusely throws upon us contaminated, impure things like pus, blood, stool, yuck, urine, and wine. Imagine that. So wine is actually considered on the same level as pus, blood, stool, urine, and urine. He pollutes the sacred place by showering such filth upon us. After killing Balvala, you may continue touring all the sacred places of pilgrimage for 12 months, and in that way, you will be completely freed from all contamination. This is our prescription. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 78th chapter of Krishna, the killing of Dantavakra Vidarata and Romaharsana. All right. So we did 78. Moving ahead. So, yes, we'll continue. 79. The liberation of Balvala and Lord Balaram's touring the sacred places. Lord Balaram prepared himself to meet the demon Balvala. At the time when the demon usually attacked the sacred place, there appeared a great hailstorm, and the whole sky became covered with dust, and the atmosphere became surcharged with a filthy smell. Just after this, the mischievous demon Balvala began to shower torrents of stool and urine and other impure substances on the arena of sacrifice. Wine, too. After this onslaught, the demon himself appeared with a great trident in his hand. He was a gigantic person, and his black body was like a huge mass of carbon. His hair, his beard, and mustache appeared reddish like copper, and because of his great beard and mustache, his mouth appeared dangerous and fierce. As soon as he saw the demon, Lord Balaram prepared to attack him. He first considered how he could smash the great demon to pieces. Lord Balaram then called for his plow and club, and they immediately appeared before him. The demon Balvala was flying in the sky, and at the first opportunity, Lord Balaram dragged him down with his plow and angrily smashed the demon's head with his club. Balaram, striking, fractured the demon's forehead, making blood flow profusely. Screaming loudly, the demon, who had been such a great disturbance to the pious brahmanas, fell to the ground like a great mountain with a red oxide peak, being struck and smashed to the ground by a thunderbolt. The inhabitants of Naimisharanda, learned sages and brahmanas, became most pleased by seeing this, and they offered their respectful prayers to Lord Balaram. They offered their heartfelt prayers to the Lord, and all agreed that none of Lord Balaram's attempts to do something would ever be a failure. Please God. The sages and brahmanas then performed a ceremonial bathing of Lord Balaram, just as the demigods bathe King Indra when he is victorious over the demons. The brahmanas and sages honored Lord Balaram by presenting him with first-class new clothing and ornaments and the lotus garland of victory. This garland was the reservoir of all beauty and was everlasting and never wilted. It was never to be dried up. After this incident, Lord Balaram took permission from the brahmanas assembled at Naimisharanya, and accompanied by other brahmanas went to the bank of the river Kaushiki. After taking his bath in this holy place, he proceeded toward the river Sarayu, and then visited the source of the river. Traveling on the bank of the Sarayu River, he gradually reached Prayag, where there's a confluence, Prayag, which is known as Allahabad nowadays, where is the confluence of three rivers, the Ganges, Yamuna, and Saraswati. That's where the Kumbh Mela is performed. Here also he took his bath, and then he worshipped in the local temples of the demigods, as enjoined in the Vedic literature, offered oblations to the forefathers and sages. He gradually reached the ashram of the sage Balvala. And from there he went to the rivers Gandaki, that's in Nepal, of course, and Gomati. After this he took his bath in the river Vipasha. Then he gradually came to the bank of the Shona River. The Shona River is still running as one of the big rivers in Bihar province. He also took his bath there and performed the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. He continued his travels and gradually came to the pilgrimage city of Gaya, where there is a celebrated Vishnu temple. Actually, the lotus feet of Vishnu, or imprint of the lotus feet, are there. And that's where people do Pinda, where Lord Chaitanya did Pinda, and also took initiation from Ishwara Puri. According to the advice of his father Vasudeva, he offered oblations to the forefathers in this Vishnu temple. From here, he traveled to the delta of the Ganges, where the sacred river Ganges mixes with the Bay of Bengal. This sacred place is called Ganga Sagara, and at the end of January every year, there is still a great assembly of saintly persons and pious men, just as there is an assembly of saintly persons in Prayag every year called the Magh Mela Fair. Prayag, of course, is where you have the confluence of the Yamuna, the Ganges, and the Saraswati. After finishing his bathing and ritualistic ceremonies at Ganga Sagara, Lord Balaram proceeded toward the mountain known as Mahendra Parvata, where he met Parashuram, an incarnation of Lord Krishna, and offered him respect by bowing down before him. After this, Lord Balaram turned toward southern India and visited the banks of the river Godavari. After taking his bath in the river Godavari and performing the necessary ritualistic ceremonies, he gradually visited the other rivers, the Vena, Pampa, and Bhimarati. That's right. On the bank of the river Bhimarati is the deity called Swami Kartikeya. After visiting Kartikeya, Lord Balaram gradually proceeded to Shailapura, a pilgrimage city in the province of Maharashtra. Shailapura is one of the biggest districts in Maharashtra province. He then gradually proceeded toward Dravidadesh. Southern India is divided into 5 parts called Pancha Dravida. Northern India is also divided into 5 parts called Panchagauda. All the important acharyas of the modern age, namely Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnuswami, and Nimbarka, advented themselves in the Dravida provinces. Lord Chaitanya, however, appeared in Bengal, which is part of the 5 Gauda Deshas. The most important place of pilgrimage in southern India, or Dravida, is Venkatachala, commonly known as Balaji. Of course, that's Tirumala. After visiting this place, Lord Balaram proceeded toward Vishnu Kanchi, and from there he proceeded on the bank of the river Kaveri. While going to Vishnu Kanchi, he visited Shiva Kanchi. So it's part of the same city, but just different parts of the same city. One part they worship Lord Vishnu, another part they worship Lord Shiva, and they argue with each other. Lord Balaram took his bath in the river Kaveri and then gradually reached Rangakshetra, Srirangam. The biggest Vishnu temple in the world is in Rangakshetra, and the Vishnu deity there is celebrated as Ranganath, a beautiful temple. There's a similar temple of Ranganath in Vrindavan, although not as big as the temple of Rangakshetra. It is the biggest in Vrindavan. Actually, it's the tallest temple in Vrindavan. So, after visiting Rangakshetra, Lord Balaram gradually proceeded toward Madurai, commonly known as the Mathura of southern India. After visiting this place, he gradually proceeded towards Setubandha, the place where Lord Ramchandra constructed the stone bridge from India to Lanka, Ceylon. In this particular holy place, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. It is the Vedic custom that when a rich visitor goes to any place of pilgrimage, he gives the local priests houses, cows, ornaments, and garments as gifts of charity. This system of visiting places of pilgrimage and providing the local Brahmin priests with all the necessities of life has greatly deteriorated in this age of Kali. The richer section of the population, because of its degradation in Vedic culture, is no longer attracted by these places of pilgrimage, and the Brahmin priests who depend on such visitors have also deteriorated in their professional duty of helping the visitors. These Brahmin priests in the place of pilgrimage are called pandas or panditas. This means that they were formerly very learned Brahmanas and used to guide the visitors in all the details of the purpose of coming there, and thus both the visitors and priests benefited by mutual cooperation. Now you go to the holy places and the pandas attack you until you give them money. I've seen this many, many times before. It is clear from the description of Srimad Bhagavatam that when Lord Balaram was visiting the different places of pilgrimage, he properly followed the Vedic system. After distributing cows at Setubandha, Lord Balaram proceeded toward the Kritamala and Tamraparni rivers. These 2 rivers are celebrated as sacred, and Lord Balaram bathed in them both. He then proceeded toward Balaya Hill. This hill is very great, and it is said to be one of the 7 peaks called the Malaya Hills. The great sage Agastya used to live there, and Lord Balaram visited him and offered his respects by bowing down before him. After taking the sage's blessings, Lord Balaram, with the sage's permission, proceeded toward the Indian Ocean. At the point of the cape known as Cape Comorin is a big temple of goddess Durga, who is known there as Kanyakumari. This temple of Kanyakumari was also visited by Lord Ramchandra, and therefore it is to be understood that this temple has been existing for millions of years. From there, Lord Balaram went to visit the pilgrimage city known as Falguna Tirtha, which is on the shore of the Indian Ocean and the Southern Ocean. Falguna Tirtha is celebrated because Lord Vishnu and his incarnation of Vedanta is lying there. From Falguna Tirtha, Lord Balaram went on to visit another pilgrimage spot known as Pancha Apsara. There also, he bathed according to the regulative principles and observed the ritualistic ceremonies. This site is also celebrated as a shrine of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to local Brahmana priests. From Cape Comorin, Lord Balaram turned toward Kerala. The country of Kerala is still existing in southern India under the name of South Kerala. After visiting this place, he came to Gokarna Tirtha, where Lord Shiva is constantly worshipped. Balaram then visited the temple of Arya Devi, which is completely surrounded by water. From that island, he went to a place known as Surparaka. After this, he bathed in the rivers known as Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvinja, and then he came to the forest known as Dandakaranya. This is the same Dandakaranya forest where Lord Ramchandra lived while in exile. Lord Balaram next came to the bank of the river Narmada, the biggest river in central India. On the bank of this sacred Narmada is a pilgrimage spot known as Mahishmati Puri. After bathing there according to regulated principles, Lord Balaram returned to Pravasha Tirtha, where he had begun his journey. When Lord Balaram returned to Pravasha Tirtha, he heard from the Brahmanas that most of the Kshatriyas in the battle of Kurukshetra had been killed. Balaram felt relieved to hear that the burden of the world had been reduced. Lord Krishna and Balaram appeared on this earth to lessen the burden of military strength created by the ambitious Kshatriya kings. This is the way of materialistic life. Not being satisfied by the absolute necessities of life, people ambitiously create extra demands, and their illegal desires are checked by the laws of nature or the laws of God, appearing as famine, war, pestilence, and similar catastrophes. Lord Balaram heard that although most of the Kshatriyas had been killed, the Kurus were still engaged in fighting. Therefore, he returned to the battlefield just on the day Bhimasen and Duryodhana were engaged in a personal duel. As the well-wisher of both of them, Lord Balaram wanted to stop them, but they would not stop. When Lord Balaram appeared on the scene, King Yudhisthira and his younger brothers Nakula and Sahadev, as well as Lord Krishna and Arjuna, immediately offered him their respectful obeisances, but they did not speak at all. The reason they were silent is that Lord Balaram was somewhat affectionate towards Duryodhana, who had learned from Balaramaji the art of fighting with a club. When the fighting was going on, King Yudhisthira and others thought that Balaram might have come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and they therefore remained silent. Both Duryodhana and Bhimsen were very enthusiastic in fighting with clubs, and in the midst of a large audience, each very skillfully tried to strike the other. While attempting to do so, they appeared to be dancing, but nonetheless it was clear that both of them were very angry. Lord Balaram, wanting to stop the fighting, said, "My dear King Duryodhana and Bhimsen, I know that both of you are great fighters and are well known in the world as great heroes, but still I think that Bhimsen is superior to Duryodhana in bodily strength. On the other hand, Duryodhana is superior in the art of fighting with a club. Taking this into consideration, my opinion is that neither of you is inferior to the other in fighting. Under the circumstances, there is very little chance that one of you will be defeated by the other. Therefore, I request you not to waste your time fighting in this way." The good instruction given by Lord Balaram to Bhimsen and Duryodhana was intended for the equal benefit of both of them. But they were so enwrapped in anger against each other, they could remember only their long-standing personal enmity. Each thought only of killing the other, and they did not give much importance to the instruction of Lord Balaram. Both of them then became like madmen, and remembering their strong accusations and ill behavior they had exchanged with each other, Lord Balaram, being able to understand the destiny awaiting them, was not eager to go further in the matter. Therefore, instead of staying, he decided to return to the city of Dwarka. Let's see how much more there is, if we can finish it. Yeah, we can finish the chapter. So we'll just take the extra time to finish the chapter. When he returned to Dwarka, he was received with great jubilation by relatives and friends, headed by King Ugrasena and other elder persons, who all came forward to welcome him. After this, he again went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisharanya, and the sages, saintly persons, and brahmanas all stood up to receive him. They understood that Lord Balaram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. The brahmanas and sages, who were always for peace and tranquility, were very much pleased at this. All of them embraced Balaram with great affection and induced him to perform various kinds of sacrifices in that sacred spot of Naimisharanya. Actually, Lord Balaram had no business performing the sacrifices recommended for ordinary human beings. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he himself is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. As such, His exemplary action in performing sacrifices was only to give a lesson to the common man, to show how one should abide by the injunctions of the Vedas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Balarama, instructed the sages and saintly persons at Naimisharanya on the subject matter of the living entity's relationship with this cosmic manifestation, and how one should regard the whole universe and how one should relate with the cosmos in order to achieve the highest goal of perfection. This supreme goal is the understanding that the whole cosmic manifestation rests on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also all-pervading, even within the minutest atom, by the function of his Paramatma feature. Lord Balaram then took the Avabrita bath, which is taken after finishing sacrificial performances. After taking his bath, he dressed himself in a new silken garment and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry. Amidst his relatives and friends, he appeared to be a shining full moon amidst the luminaries in the sky. Lord Balaram is the personality of Godhead, and unto himself, therefore he is beyond the scope of understanding by mind, intelligence, and body. He descended exactly like a human being and behaved in that way for his own purposes. We can only explain his activities as the Lord's pastimes. No one can even estimate the extent of the unlimited demonstrations of his pastimes, because he is the all-powerful Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering these pastimes of Lord Balaram in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus his life will be successful in all respects. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 79th chapter of Krishna, the liberation of Balvala and Lord Balaram's turning to sacred places. Okay, now we can take questions. There's actually one question already in the chat window. Hold on a second. Okay. So here it is. Hare Krishna. Why is pratiloma frowned upon? And why should that still be applicable to us now? And so, if someone in a pratiloma marriage, should they be cautious of anything to ensure marriage is successful and Krishna consciousness is birth by caste given importance in the pratiloma anuloma calculation? Very good question. All right, so first of all, we should understand in Kali Yuga everyone is Shudra. So in Kali Yuga none of these things apply. But one, and even in other yugas, one is considered to be a particular caste according to their qualities. Now, usually, in the previous yugas, the children would take after the parents. Okay, so one reason is the pratiloma marriage was frowned upon generally, is that you had a woman who was much more qualified than the man. It usually didn't provides a congenial relationship, because men have this big ego and they want to be the controller. They think they're Purushas, and the women don't have a big ego. Of course they have big emotions, maybe not big egos. Their egos are different, but the man's ego is that he wants to be much more the controller. And sometimes the women are masculine and they want to be the controller, but there's Kali Yuga. So therefore it's not as congenial for the children to grow up in such a situation where there's more conflicts. That's why the pratiloma marriage is generally not recommended. And in general, even in Kali Yuga, we don't consider castes, but in general in Kali Yuga, the man should be more qualified intellectually than the woman. I mean, I've seen so many instances where the woman is much more qualified education-wise, and it just doesn't work. Doesn't work. I mean, she doesn't respect the husband, and the husband, having a big male ego, he gets really upset. The woman can run intellectual rings around the husband. It really drives the man bananas or crazy. So that's why it's generally like that. So pratiloma, anuloma. But we don't consider those things, except generally, I mean, psychologically. the man should be more qualified or equally qualified with the woman. They can both be Brahmas, both the Kshatriyas, Vaishya. But let's say you have a man who is a Vaishya. Let's give the example. And Vaishyas are thinking more and more money and acquisition, and the woman's a Brahmin, and she's thinking self-realization, peace. Don't be greedy. How is that a compatible situation? It's really problematic. Generally, people should be marrying the same. Varna is determined by quality and work, not by caste or birth. Although generally, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Apple trees have apples on them, and banana trees have bananas, and trees have coconuts on them. So if you're a coconut, then don't. Anyway, it should be considered. It's actually extremely important. For compatibility, at least. We don't want incompatible marriage where the children have to be dealing with all these different disputes. It's hard enough for people to learn how to get along with each other without, consideration of these different factors. Anyway, Kali Yuga, everyone Shudra, Samskara Bhavat Vijam, by some scars they can actually become elevated. All right, we have time for one more question from all of you.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the question?
Gurudev, in the previous chapters in Krishna book, it talked about like Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sat Kabu Na Hoy. But and there's another verse which says Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Page. So is the bhakti coming from by Guru's mercy, or it is lying dormant in my heart? Like those
it's dormant in your heart by Guru's mercy. The Guru is awakening it. How about that? Both things. That's a question that everybody's been asking. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. That Krishna consciousness, you're naturally Krishna conscious, but you have to wake up. So the Guru wakes you up, and that's the seed of devotion. He wakes up. Wake up, you rascal. Okay?
Yes, Gurudev, thank you.
Here's another question. Oh, someone who's already married. Why are you asking this question? So he says, Hare Krishna, please accept my respectful obeisance. How about matching by Jyotish? Yeah, if you find someone really expert, but still, by association, the person, there's two aspects or two ways a person's personality is determined. One is nature and one is nurture. And nurture is actually more important than nature. So, I mentioned many times before, Krishna had a son who was really nice, became a demon. Lord Ramchandra had some associates who became demoniac by bad association. So, what are you going to do? Prabhupada said before you came to Krishna consciousness, you had no good fortune, and I created your good fortune. So, there's many different factors. I generally, of course, I'm out of the marriage arranging business. Now, it's a disaster to get into that business. But my recommendation is you look at a person's qualities. It's a pretty common sense thing. Maybe you need a questionnaire. Do you like eating fish? Because then you're Rakshasa. So you should marry another Rakshasa. Okay? Rakshasini, sorry. You got to have the feminine of Rakshasa. Rakshani or something like that. So, generally, I think common sense should prevail. I've seen there was some marriages where the astrologers said, these people have been married for many lifetimes. It's a perfect match. And then later on, it's like, what can I say? It's like the Battle of Kurukshetra. You got, every day it's like throwing things at each other. of course, not shooting, but just throwing. We've had instances where the wife threw a food processor at the husband. Boom. And other instances where the wife comes at the husband with a knife, and the husband comes at the wife with God knows what. So I think common sense and the astrologers will say, well, the perfect marriage. They've been married for many lifetimes. Well, the reason they've been married for many lifetimes is they hate each other's guts. And that's why they get married, so they can torture each other eternally, or almost eternally. So sometimes people get married for many lifetimes because they just they want to torture each other. And so life after life, Mama Janmani, Janmani Shre, Baba had torture, Haituki Tueye, so. So, I don't know about astrology. I do know about astrology, but, you take into consideration, yes. But just like Prabhupada said, by astrology or by the weather forecast, you can tell it's raining, but you could still use an umbrella. So you can still go out if you have an umbrella. Okay, on that happy note, hopefully I didn't talk any of you out of getting married today. So, we'll see everybody tomorrow for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Disappearance Day commemoration. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.